Welcome everyone to Saturday. I am back on screen as well, and to celebrate my return to the screen this Saturday, we are talking about the news for 10.1. That's right, of course, we have tons of news for 10.1, so what could we be talking about first? Well, the first thing that's worth talking about is obviously the planned changes to the classes and specs in 10.1. Never mind the additions of the new mounts, the new pets, the new look of the tier sets, the new zone, the new raid, etc, etc. What comes first in this game is how your spec and how your class are going to play. So that's what we are looking first at the news of 10.1. This is also going to be particularly interesting because there are quite a few specs missing from the planned changes for 10.1, some specs that we might have been waiting for, some attention from the devs, which we are not getting. So first in line to the changes are hunters. Now hunters, while this looks like it's something, it's still not going to be too much. Survival basically gets nothing. Beast Mastery and Marksmanship do get a handful of things, but both of them mostly just get changes to underplayed talents. You know, the classic style of trying to buff the underplayed talents in hopes that they become more competitive. So for Beast Mastery, Master Handler or Snake Bite are getting buffed even though they are not talents being picked. For Marksmanship, it's Bombardment and Legacy of the Windrunners and Lethal Shots, which are not the taken talents currently, whether it's Mythic Plus or the Raid, etc, etc. So most of the changes for hunters are just there to try to give them more of an option in their talent choices. One of the more positive changes, although this feels like a deja vu because we have been pointing this out for what feels like 2 months, is Mistweaver Monk. Because Mistweaver gets yet another round of buffs. This one though, it's also going to change their mechanics, I would say, quite a bit, because it's Ancient Teachings which gets changed. The TLDR is that previously Ancient Teachings was going to heal with your damaging ability, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick, an injured ally within 30 yards. It was random, it was uncontrollable, it was, yes, smart targeting, low HP players, but it was still random. Now, the change to Ancient Teachings is that you're going to be healing up to 5 injured allies within 30 yards, with, of course, split healing. So, this is now being turned into a proper full party heal. So the entirety of Ancient Teachings is now a full party heal. This of course gains lots of value as a healing tool in Mythic Plus. Now as a Mistweaver Monk you have an even easier chance to party heal while you are in a Mythic Plus group with this change. It's not just that though, there are a few other buffs here and there to Mistweaver, like more Vivify single target healing. There is a better way to use your Life Cocoon with Chrysalis, getting a 45-second cooldown reduction. Invigorating Mist healing is increased by 12%, and you lose Song of Chi-Ji from your Spec 3 because it's going to be moved over the Monk General 3. So overall, what is coming in 10.1 are positive changes for now for Mistweaver Monk. We can go back alphabetically back to Evoker. The main changes to Evoker are to Devastation. So these changes are somewhat weird. They are overall at the moment strictly a single target nerf. The TLDR is that with Animosity being nerfed, so your extension of Dragon Rage is now 4 seconds extensions instead of 6-second extensions. It's gonna make it much harder, if not downright impossible, to extend your Dragon Rage to the near 1 minute long durations you have right now. Blizzard tried to make this entire change, as they point this out, because they wanted you to fully channel Disintegrate. If you don't play Devastation Evoker, of course you don't know, but at the moment Devastation has been playing with this very weird thing where you have to properly clip disintegrates back to back without letting them finish, to refresh them at the right moment to get the maximum value out of it. The changes to some of these talents are intended to make a fully channeled disintegrate more rewarding. Unfortunately, at the moment, it nets out to be a significant single target nerf. We will see in the future if they will be further addressing this perhaps unintended nerf, but at the very least it's nice to see that devastation is being addressed. The last of the minor, tiny perhaps changes are to enhancement. So Blizzard is giving a little bit more of a focus to the physical part of the build of enhancement. A few of these buffs, most of these are buffs, in fact basically all of them are buffs, are going to be focusing more on the physical and lightning side of the build, trying to not push enhancement builds to all go for elemental blast. The only problem with this change is that at the moment the physical build has been called the gambling build for a reason. If you remember back when we checked our simulations, this was the gambling build of enhancement when it came to the DPS variance. So how likely it was to just not perform evenly with every result, but to just be skewed up or down based on the RNG it has. And the physical build of enhancement was far and away the most RNG of all of the DPS builds. That's why not many enhancement shaman players were enjoying trying or having to move over to that build. So perhaps if you want to buff the physical build of enhancement, you might also want to focus a little bit more on reducing the amount of RNG that this physical damage build of enhancement first, and then think about buffing it later. What we have left for last are the 3 more buffed, or maybe even the 3 more changed specs planned for 10.1. The lowest one of the 3 is Feral. So Feral gets its major cooldown changed, Berserk. Blizzard has explained the reasoning behind changing Berserk. If you want, the TLDR is that once as a Feral Druid you use Berserk, you just end up spamming finishers anyways, because you get so many combo points back and it's just more rewarding to just keep spamming finishers. Blizzard doesn't think that's a very nice and engaging type of playstyle, so what they do is they attach an extra 50% damage increase to Shred and an extra 50% damage increase to Rake. On top of the finishing moves, restore 3 combo points over the cap, as well as combo point generating abilities generate 1 additional combo point. But the whole idea is to make your generators, make your combo point generators more valuable inside of Berserk, so that you don't just ignore them inside your big cooldown. There are a few other handful of buffs like Shred damage being increased and Thrash damage being increased, but overall that was the main focus of the Feral change, the change to their cooldown. The change to balance is a little bit larger. Overall it nets out to be a buff almost across the board, especially not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of how the spec will play. How Blizzard explained this is that Stellar Flare had too much of a power around the entirety of the build of Balanced Druid. It focused too much, it synergized too much around other passives, specifically like Shooting Stars. So they wanted to limit this synergy by not making Stellar Flare proc Shooting Stars anymore, and in return they have been buffing more or less across the board the rest of the toolkit of Balanced Druid. So for now, this seems positive. It has gotten a positive review out of Balanced Druid players, but we have of course yet to see the full shape of these changes for Balanced Druid. They are definitely, however, more promising, especially considering that now, at this moment in 10.0.5, it's not that Balanced Druid is doing too well across the content in game. So it looks positive for Balanced Druid. Then, even though these Balanced Druid changes do feel significant, we have of course the attention whore of Priest. Even though Discipline and Holy don't really get changes, Shadow Priest once again wants to grab the spotlight because they get yet another rework in 10.1. This now seems the life cycle of a Shadow Priest. Get scheduled for a rework, the rework happens and the spec is garbage, get buffed over and over and over until you actually become strong, down to the point that you are OP, this kind of goes out of control and you have to be reworked once more and repeat the cycle. This is where we are at right now at Shadow Priest, right? As they start to become S tier in the first season of Dragonflight, Blizzard plans to rework them. Now, there are way too many changes to be talking about all that's happening to Shadow, especially this early in the patch. We have to wait later on to see how it's gonna impact Shadow. We have the first bullet points from Blizzard, their problems, the problems they had with Shadow Priest, things like button bloat, things like how Mindseer ended up playing for the spec, things like the flooded rotations, etc, etc. So we have the initial manifesto of Blizzard on what do they plan on changing for Shadow. So for now, we have to once again sigh at the notion that Shadow Priest is getting yet another rework, and we will have to wait, I guess, to see how it's gonna play out this time. Now, besides these specs getting changed, however, we do have the question of the specs not getting changed, because up to this point, yes, these are the first initial entries in the development notes for 10.1, so we have still like 2+ months before the patch launches, so there is still room for more specs to be mentioned in here. However, we have a few other specs that are not being mentioned in here that are a bit worrying. For example, Elemental Shaman. Other specs can be specs like Destruction Warlock, which is not doing too well. Survival Hunter, which is also being more or less ignored in 10.1. Of course, the big one, both in terms of size and also in terms of lack of changes, is Guardian Druid. Guardian Druid is also missing from these balance tuning changes. So, is Blizzard going to plan to release the next season with Guardian Druid in this state? That is also something that happens whenever you see patches. For example, where are the mages? It's not that Fire Mage is doing too well, it's not that Frost Mage is doing too well. Why are we surprisingly, because as we know, Mage is Blizzard's favorite class and Fire Mage is Blizzard's favorite spec. So why is Fire Mage missing from 10.1 tuning? That was the main question mark for this patch so far. We have gotten our changes, the initial development notes for these specs. We will have to wait and see if Blizzard plans to add a few more down the line, or if this is all we are going to get for 10.1. But with this being said, for now on this Saturday, these were all the balance tuning changes planned so far for 10.1. And with this being said, I am going to leave you to the rest of your weekend. Thanks, of course, as usual, yes, to all of the Patreon supporters for the contribution and the help to the growth of the channel. You can do more for free, of course, by liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. You can, of course, do similar things for free, like following me over on Twitter, as well as following me over on my stream over on Twitch. Now, with these social unpleasantries out of the way, thank you guys for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, this has to leave because it's blinding. Okay, we are back in the dark, the place of my choice.